Interactive materials in language learning. Presentation. Virtual and face-to-face environments require a series of characteristics and principles based on the effective acquisition of the English language, in which students and teachers avoid relationships and encourage communicative education with all resources that these educational environments offer. To design activities in virtual and face-to-face environments, it is important considering some recommendations to facilitate the educational conditions in these environments. Objective. Objective 1. Consider some recommendations for the application of teaching materials in virtual and face-to-face environments. Objective 2. Identify the characteristics of each educational environment to design supportive teaching activities. Listening tips to design listening activities for online environment. First, design listening activities to know the student's performance of speech communication. Here, the designer must implement diverse activities to evaluate the elements of speech such as pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. Second, show and know didactic content. The designer must use enough materials to facilitate the development of the activities on the internet. Several didactic contents serve as guide or instruction listening activities. These materials can help students to solve a variety of activities and promote students' critical thinking through their immersion in the classroom. Select the activities to evaluate the different levels of listening skills. It is important to consider that all listening activities are not appropriate. It's necessary that the designer knows the understanding levels of the students to select the appropriate activities for their level of knowledge. Designing interactive listening activities. The activities must be focusing on getting the attention of the learners. The designer should include innovative activities which encourage the students' critical knowledge to evaluate the students' capability to create and respond to diverse tasks, to encourage oral communication between learners and teachers who should be able to interact with them and give feedback about their performance. And finally, provide instructions of technological tools. To design, the designer must provide clear instructions about using technological tools. The designer should facilitate educative elements such as tutorials, clear instruction of the use of tools online. Listening tips to design listening activities for face-to-face environments. First, designing real listening activities. The designer should implement activities based in a real context, such as conversations between students, which implicit real interaction between learners and teachers. Activities as reading in class encourage participation and performance listening skills in the classroom. To design listening activities in real time, it is important to consider the behavior of students. Of it will depend on the effectiveness of developing activities. Of this way, the teacher will be able to identify the student's strengths and weaknesses in listening skills in real time. Considering listening activities that involve receptive skills. The designer should define activities that encourage the interpretation in the classroom through of the implementation of spoken language. This is where the student learns to interpret what he listens. Designing listening activities for sequences. It is important that the designer keep us an order or sequence for the implementation of the activities. This help will help students become familiar with the main topic. Designing listening activities that activate student knowledge. The designer should introduce teaching strategies in the classroom. For example, he should present the grammar structure as the main approaches to the subject. For example, vocabulary, images, expressions, or phrases. Speaking materials. Some tips to design speaking activities for online environments. First, designing authentic speaking activities. The designer should design based on the real life of students, such as dialogues and conversation that promote the students' sociolinguistic skills. Designing challenges speaking activities. The designer should design activities in which the students need to search and explore different alternatives to develop good skills to describe what he understood of the materials or tasks provided. Designing speaking activities according to the level of students. The designer must implement tasks based on the level of knowledge of the students, considering the population which is working. Designing interactive speaking activities. The online environment allows creating diverse activities can help students to improve and practice their communicative and sociolinguistic skills. And finally, designing speaking activities that promote interaction between learners and teachers. Currently, there are technological tools such as platforms and applications that promote asynchronous encounters to exchange ideas and knowledge and receive feedback. Some tips to design speaking activities for face-to-face environments. First, designing speaking activities to involve productive skills. The activities must be designed to produce language in spoken form. Designing illustrative speaking activities. It is important to design activities that have a certain visual content, whereas these are presented to students with limited abilities. The most of them learn with speaking activities based on images, pictures. Designing speaking activities that are oriented by teachers in the classroom. The designer should design activities that will be guided by a teacher face-to-face environment, such as deeper interaction and instruction by the teacher in the classroom. And finally, designing speaking activities that involve solving problems. The designer must create and present specific activities with specific data that involve resolving problems in real time in the classroom. Conclusions. To design interactive materials in language learning, it is important considering the futures of educational content. Second, consider designing activities according to needs of each educational content. Third, it is important to know the importance and relevance that to have for students the designing of interactive materials in their English language learning process. Finally, it is concluded that designing interactive materials in language learning improve the English language acquisition. Finally, reference. Thank you very much. Interactive materials in language learning.